vais m'occuper de plusieurs choses. Alors, j'avoue que la fiscalité n'est pas mon dada, mais en fait, je remplace un de mes collègues qui est bloqué à Londres, vu les grèves de la SNCF. Donc, on va faire ce que je peux et on va faire une présentation sur 2 points essentiels, donc qui est la fiscalité et sur RGDP. En fait, ce sont vos données confidentielles. Après, je laisserai la parole à mes collègues qui d'autres intervenants. Alors, il faut savoir que, et c'est en ce moment, puisque vous avez des problèmes sur les déclarations fiscales. Alors, comment ça va se passer? D'abord sur la valorisation. En fait, c'est à vous de valoriser votre portefeuille. C'est-à-dire à la fois lorsque vous allez faire des investissements euros en crypto et de crypto à crypto. C'est clair que pour le moment, la réglementation est un peu floue. Simplement, on a eu des décisions du Conseil d'État qui nous ont plus ou moins guidés. Donc la valorisation de votre portefeuille peut se faire de 2 moyens différents. Soit vous allez prendre les cours des différentes plateformes et faire une moyenne. À cet instant, vaut cette somme-là. Soit vous allez pouvoir faire des moyennes pondérées. Il faut savoir que tous les justificatifs, vous devez les garder. Donc, je vous invite à aller sur les plateformes, faire des captures d'écran pour comprendre et pour voir combien votre portefeuille va être valorisé. OK? Alors, en principe, c'est bien ce qui a été défendu, c'est première entrée, première sortie. Ça veut dire que lorsque vous faites vos premiers investissements, la sortie fait que vous allez valoriser par rapport à ce que vous allez rentrer et ce que vous allez sortir. Il faut savoir que vous pouvez aussi utiliser une autre méthode qui s'appelle le coût moyen pondéré. Je vous rassure, si vous avez des questions, il faut savoir que nos collègues vont venir à partir du 21 mai donc dans nos locaux et vous pourrez prendre rendez-vous pour qu'ils vous aiguillent plus. Je ne ferai pas là de cas particulier parce que là, ce n'est pas mon job d'aller analyser toutes vos déclarations. Je vous explique simplement les grands principes.
Vous prenez les questions ou...
Ça dépend. Si elles sont sympas, je les prends. S'ils sont trop compliqués, je ne les prends pas. Dites-moi. Allez-y.
Vu la volatilité des cryptos, quelle est la date qui doit être prise en compte?
Ça veut dire, alors c'est pour ça que je vous dis, normalement c'est l'histoire du premier entrée, premier sortie. C'est-à-dire qu'à votre premier investissement, vous dites qu'admettons cette crypto vaut 10 €, et quand vous commencez à faire vos sorties, vous dites qu'elle vaut, admettons, 20 000 €. C'est pour ça que c'est assez compliqué, puisqu'il y a une forte volatilité. Donc c'est pour ça qu'il est aussi préconisé peut-être de faire un coût moyen pondéré. Ça veut dire de prendre les sommes.
Ça c'est pour la valorisation du profit, mais je parle juste de la valorisation générale du portefeuille. Si j'ai 10 bitcoins, combien est-ce que je dois déclarer? Est-ce que c'est au 1er janvier? Est-ce que c'est au jour où je remets ma...
Non, c'est par rapport à l'année fiscale, là.
Oui.
C'est quand vous anticipez votre plus-value.
Oui, exactement. Premier sorti, oui, voilà, c'est sur. Vous allez calculer votre plus-value ou votre moins-value. C'est quand vous allez faire une sortie ou une entrée. Donc, quand vous rentrez en crypto, ça veut dire quand vous faites des achats, vous dites que je l'ai acheté, admettons, à 10 €. Et quand vous allez sortir, quand vous allez constater vos plus-values, vous allez faire en fait votre valorisation sur la sortie.
Il y a aussi une déclaration de patrimoine qu'on doit faire en France. Et c'est sur celle-là.
Non, là, j'en ai aucune idée. Je ne vous ai pas dit non. Je ne sais pas. Ça veut dire quoi la déclaration de patrimoine? C'est vous déclarez votre impôt sur le revenu. C'est ça que je ne comprends pas. Vous déclarez vos impôts tout court.
Oui, mais il y a les impôts sur les revenus et puis il y a les impôts sur le patrimoine.
Oui, mais c'est différent. Alors, justement, c'est ce qu'il disait. Vous avez 2 possibilités. C'est soit vous faites une plus-value ou une moins-value sur des biens meubles. C'est ce qu'ils ont considéré. Ou soit vous le déclarez en BIC, bénéfices industriels et commerciaux. Alors voilà, monsieur va être mieux que moi sur ça. Alors il faut savoir aussi que quand vous faites des échanges de crypto en crypto, c'est aussi imposable. Donc ce n'est pas en entrée fiat, mais c'est aussi lorsque vous allez faire des échanges de crypto en crypto. Donc ça, c'est un petit peu plus compliqué. Deuxième slide. Next, please. GDPR. Donc, je pense que vous avez tous vu, lorsque vous inscrivez sur des sites Internet, des cookies, c'est sur vos données personnelles. Donc, vous savez que chaque site Internet collecte des données personnelles. Et donc, à partir du 25 mai, il y a une réglementation européenne qui a été mise en place, justement, pour pouvoir maîtriser ces données personnelles. Donc, d'abord, il va falloir comprendre qu'est-ce qu'une donnée personnelle. Et ça, c'est loin d'être simple. Donc, c'est toute donnée qui est susceptible d'être reliée à un individu directement ou indirectement. C'est-à-dire que lorsque vous avez une facture, par exemple, de Coin House, vous avez votre nom, votre prénom, la somme et l'adresse. Ça, ce sont des données personnelles. Il faut savoir que on peut, alors ce qu'on ne fait pas et ce que je vous invite à vérifier à chaque fois que vous inscrivez sur un site internet ou lorsque vous achetez un bien, ces données peuvent être revendues. Donc maintenant, on va vous demander les autorisations. On va aussi vous demander si vous voulez soit les supprimer, soit les modifier. Vous changez d'adresse, vous avez tout à fait le droit de demander à que l'adresse soit modifiée. J'attire votre attention. Il y a des données personnelles qu'on ne pourra pas ni modifier ni effacer parce qu'il y a d'autres réglementations. Et par exemple, en matière de lutte contre le blanchiment d'argent, tout ce qui est banque, institutions financières, assurances, sociétés de gestion ne vont pas pouvoir effacer vos données lorsque vous allez le demander, ni les modifier. Puisque vous savez qu'on est soumis, toutes ces institutions sont soumises à la directive contre le blanchiment d'argent. Et donc, nous, on doit garder vos données 5 ans après la relation commerciale. Dans tous les cas, on va vous demander votre accord. C'est-à-dire que vous allez pouvoir donner votre accord si vous voulez que ces données soient exploitées à des fins commerciales ou pas. Donc, même si c'est automatique, je vous invite à regarder tous ces cookies et à faire des acceptations. Parce qu'après, vous ne pourrez plus rien faire. OK ? Donc, vous avez un droit d'accès, de rectification, de portabilité et de suppression des données. Portabilité, juste pour vous dire qu'on peut on peut donner vos données à des pays, à d'autres pays. Il faut savoir qu'en France, il faut que les pays aient la même réglementation que nous par rapport aux données personnelles. Est-ce que vous avez des questions sur RGDP? Parce que sinon, je vais laisser mon collègue continuer sur ça, qui lui va rentrer plus dans les détails. Non? Tout est bon? Je vous remercie. Je vous souhaite une très, très bonne soirée. Merci.
Alors, au début,
Attends.
Faire en anglais. Et peut-être qu'on va le faire en français, du coup.
Ouais, je pense.
Parce que quelqu'un ne parle pas français ici.
Non, mais vous... Ah, sorry. Ouais, non, mais...
Est-ce que quelqu'un ne parle pas anglais?
Ça va être plus simple. Yes. Non, je speak anglais.
Ça
c'est à moi.
So maybe we do it in English now. Ça marche, Émilie, le micro? Pas l'air de m'entendre. So yeah, now we'd like to focus a little bit more on crypto and crypto-related data, and particularly to crypto data related to private investment. So my name is Antoine Scalia. I'm co-founder of a company called Crypto. And I present you a little bit what we do. But first, what sort of data are we talking about? Basically, when you're trading on an exchange, you have 3 types of data. The first type is wallet data, meaning what coin do you have, how your wallets have evolved across time. You have transaction data, so all the data related to the transaction. What coin do you buy? Did you buy, sell, at what price, the fee you paid, etc. And all the data related to the orders. So all the orders you placed, what type of orders, is it a market limit orders, a limit order, market order, that kind of stuff. And also if orders were concealed or succeeded. So these are the 3 main data you are generating when you are trading on an exchange. And the problem today is that if you have a lot of exchanges, which is the case of a lot of crypto investors, all these data are stuck in the exchanges and work in silo. So for instance, if in my case, I have like crypto on all these exchanges, so I trade on all these exchanges, and there is no consolidation of this data. And the idea of the presentation is that if you gather all this data, if you consolidate all this data, you can create value for your investment strategy. and for other stuff like accounting and tax issues. So that's what we do at Crypto. We do private investors data consolidation. Now we're working with 5 exchanges, and we will add more exchanges, and we are 2 co-founders, Alexandre and I. So what kind of value can you create by consolidate your crypto data? The first thing is that if you consolidate all the data, you can have a solution to keep the books of your investment. Basically, keeping the books of your investment means you can track your fiat currency movement. Usually, when you start investing, you send fiat currency to an exchange that take fiat like Kraken, and then you invest this fiat, and you buy crypto, and you send crypto to another exchange, and you want to see how your first investment in the fiat investment moves across your activity. And so you can identify the gains and losses you're doing on all your investment, meaning gains and losses in fiat currency, with this idea that you follow the fiat that you put in your exchange. And you can also, for instance, if you are like an active trader that do a lot of trades each day, you can compare all the gains you're doing, if you're doing like small gains with the fees you paid, and have a clear idea about if you are good or not. So you can do, a lot of traders now are doing this with Excel, which is very good, but which takes a lot of time, and suppose a little bit of skills with Excel, because here when we talk about identifying gains and losses and related to fiat movement, you have to match your transaction data with another kind of data, which are market data. For instance, if you want to evaluate a crypto-to-crypto transaction, you have to match the transaction data you're generating with market data, meaning for instance, with the transaction Bitcoin, Ethereum, you have to have the valuation of the Bitcoin at the time of the transaction and match it to evaluate the transaction in fiat currency. So if you're doing this with Excel, it requires a little bit of skills. At Crypto, we do this with the web app, so we consolidate all your transactions from all the different exchanges, and identify we give you data about the fiat data, which are the fees you're paying, the valuation of the transaction. So you can see here it's like a crypto-to-crypto transaction. We evaluate it with fiat currency, and we identify gains and losses with a FIFO algorithm. So this is more on the accounting part of the accounting value that you can generate from your crypto data. It could be also useful to analyze the impact on your taxes. What kind of data can you use to analyze the impact on your taxes at the end of the year? First, the number of trades you're doing. This is important, particularly in France. We have a new tax regime, which is called Plus-Value sur Bien Meuble, which is not new, but which is new for crypto. And for instance, the number of trades you're doing can make you fit or not in this tax regime, because you fit this tax regime if you are a sort of we call occasionnel in France, so if you do a few trades a year. So you have to have the data about the number of trades you're doing. It's important also to have the amount of sales, meaning the valuation in fiat currency of your sales. Because again, with this Plus-Value sur Bien Meuble, if you're doing transactions that are valuated less than 5,000 euros, you are not taxed on this transaction. So it's important to have the data about the amount of the valuation of the sales. Also, information about gains and losses, because there are a lot of tax regimes. We have also tax regime like this in France, but in the US and a lot of countries it works like this, focused on capital gains. So you have to have an idea about the valuation of your gains and losses, and again in fiat currency, because in a lot of countries, and including in France, unfortunately, the crypto-to-crypto transactions are taxed. And at the end, all this data you compute gives you an idea about how much you're going to have to pay at the end of the year, and so can give you an idea about how much you have to withdraw, how much gains you have to withdraw to pay your taxes at the end of the year. And it's important to cash out your gains, not to be affected by a bear market. That's what happened this year. A lot of investors that made a lot of gains in 2017 didn't cash out, and some of them were deeply affected by the bear market at the beginning of the year. And so now they have to pay the taxes, but the gains they did and the gains on which they have to be taxed kind of disappear. So it's a sort of a complicated situation for them. So this is more on the accounting and tax related, but we can do also. This with crypto, we're doing also valuation about your data on taxes, meaning depending on your tax regime, we give you insight about the amount of sales you're doing across 2017 and all the gains and losses you did with the bottom line, and also with a more detailed report to help you declare your taxes. And to do this and to develop this product, we have partnered with Blockchain Legal, which was the tax lawyer that's supposed to talk before. And so we have built this together. And Blockchain Legal is a tax advisory company, a French one, based on blockchain and cryptocurrency. So with your crypto data, you can do, so this is more on the sort of boring part because it's related to accounting, tax, and that kind of stuff. But you can do also stuff that are more funny and more interesting, like getting portfolio insight. When we talk about getting portfolio insight, basically you can play with your wallet data and transaction data to have, for instance, to set strategies. So you have some platforms today that enables you to do virtual portfolio, meaning that if you are an investor that have a diversified portfolio, you have different kinds of strategies depending on the coins you have. So for instance, you have short-term coins, you want just to make money on it and you don't really build in the project. You have coins you want to hold and that kind of stuff. So you take all the wallet data and you split them and you play with them. You can set objectives and to help you invest in a clever way or more rational way. With transaction data, you can also analyze your portfolio. For instance, you can compute, you can have ideas about how a coin contributed to your global performance in order to have some ideas about reallocation or that kind of stuff. You can apply also to this kind of data algorithm, like asset management algorithm, that help you have an idea about the risk exposure you have. And so also they can give you idea about reallocation. It's based on the past, but it can give you some ideas. And also an interesting thing you can do is when you have computed all this sort of more clever data, you can compare your global performance with an index, for instance. So if we take the virtual portfolio of short-term coins you have, you can compare traders usually that do short-term, that trade short-term, they do it to increase the number of BTC. So you can, for instance, compare the performance of your virtual portfolio with the price of the BTC and see if you beat it or not, which is quite interesting and funny. And yeah, that's it. So this is today. There's not a lot of platforms that do it. There is one called Coin Tracking that do it a little bit, but it's as the crypto market is a new market. There is no like a very big platform that does it very well. But this is clearly where we are ending to. We're going to work on it very soon. And so we'll launch on the tax part and the accounting part, we have launched the product today. It's called crypto.co. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. Yeah, today. Huh? Yeah.
So hello everyone, my name is Robert. I'm from a company called Kaiko, and I'm here to talk to you about the pricing of cryptocurrencies. And I know the title from the meetup is a different talk, and I changed the topic because I thought this is more interesting for you guys. So apologies if anybody is disappointed. So first I will lay the ground by defining what we're talking about, pricing versus valuation, and why they're different. And we will look at some events that happened in the past year to illustrate the problems that can happen in how the markets act today. And then I will give you a short pitch of what we're doing at Kaiko. And yeah, so price discovery is pretty easy. It's like things work on the market. It's when a buyer and a seller can agree on a price and they will do a transaction. So on a traditional exchange like Kraken or Bitfinex, you will have an order book. People place, like, I want to put a buy order for this much Bitcoin for this much euros. And then when orders match, they have an execution engine that results in a trade, which will usually result in the latest price, which is what you see when you go on the exchange site. They're like, oh, this is the price of Bitcoin. Valuation is more intrinsic, subjective. If you're a moon kid and you have your pet token, which you believe has vast value, it will be very different from the market price, but you will still be happy to transact on the market price. So let's look at what happened in April this year. On CoinMarketCap, which a lot of people use to find out what the value or the price of a crypto asset is. At the time, the Korean markets had vastly higher prices for most tokens and currencies than the rest of the world. So CoinMarketCap said, hey, we don't want to have them in their index, so they removed them, which resulted in their graphs showing a sudden drop in prices, and people started panic selling, and the price actually dropped. So just a rebalancing of their index without proper communication around it cost the actual price of Ripple particularly to fall down a lot lower than it was before. So we can see that it's kind of tricky to have a reliable way to discover price. Also, on another note, in June last year, a lot of people have talked and written a lot about this, so I'm not going to go into it in so much depth, but at the time, Ether was about $320 US, and then in one single transaction, the price went down to 1 cent. And there was one large sell order that came in that dropped the price a little bit, which then triggered people have stop losses. So people who trade, they want to be able to stop their losses, basically, so that when the market price goes to a certain price, they will automatically trigger a sell order, which then, of course, pushes the market price down a little bit more, which at the same time you have margin traders, and maybe somebody has a long position, which means that you're speculating that the price will go up by a certain amount, which you need to have collateral for. And when the price goes below a certain level, the exchange will force you to liquidate your assets, which will result in another sell order. And this cycle of chain reactions resulted in the price going down to 1 cent, which was the final order in the order book. And this all happened in one transaction because they batch together the transaction, and the execution engine handles it in one moment. And everybody lost their wits, and the trading stopped for 3 hours until they figured out, like, no, it's actually working exactly as intended. There was a lot of noise about this online, and eventually Coinbase, who are owners of GDAX, they reimbursed the people who lost money because of this, because they got liquidated. But yeah. So here we can see it in action. And this is actually slowed down. This is, I think, was during 22 milliseconds this drop happened. So these kind of things happen all the time, actually, on smaller scales, of course. So let's look at a different example. This is just from last month. So we had a day of relative price stability of Ethereum BTC on Poloniex. But then it looks kind of funky here, right? So let's zoom in a bit. So each bar here is 1 minute. And then we can see that it suddenly dropped down here when we had a large increase in volume. Like the volume here is like, I don't know, 10 ETH per minute. And suddenly we have like 1,000. So the price went down and then went up again. And I'm not a data scientist, but I did a little bit of digging around in the order book and the trade history. And we can see that it only took, if somebody would have put just one order, like we have the other mechanisms we talked about before, but if you just account for the depth of the order book and the liquidity, you can see that it would only take 200 ETH, which is about $100,000 to, in one order, push, like eat up all the orders. And I looked a bit at the trades. It doesn't seem like somebody did this on purpose, but we don't really know. And so why is this interesting? Well, it turned out that BitMEX, which is a futures exchange where people margin trade on futures, their Ethereum price index was 100% based on Poloniex. So suddenly their margin traders started getting liquidated. And there was noise online about this, of course. I couldn't figure out if people got reimbursed. Probably not. So this shows that markets are not really isolated, and you have to be careful when you consider where you get your pricing information from, and even the services that you use that use price information somehow. Where is that coming from, and is that representative? So yeah, we have a lot of things that can cause issues. So apart from what we've seen here, we can get extreme price movements to a lot of other issues. Not only down, we looked at crashes now, but you could also get pumps, or what appears to be pumps because of this. There can be hacks, just misinformation online. And as we saw with Poloniex, low liquidity and low volume can be a reinforcing factor in this, and we have seen that many exchanges actually fake their volume. There was a post not long ago where it was pretty much proven that OKX, for example, is faking a lot of their volume. It looks like they have a lot more liquidity than they actually do. And maybe other exchanges are doing that as well. We'll see what happens when we get more regulation. And also, building an index is hard, as we have seen. So before I finish up, I would just like to talk about what we are doing. I've been with Kaiko since last summer. Kaiko's been around since 2015, and we're working together with funds, traders, academia, and startups to basically take the position as the market data provider for crypto assets. And Antoine already talked a bit about the three types of data. So we are focusing purely on the public data. So the wallet data, which is private, is not part of what we're doing. So what we have live right now is we provide historical market data, so order books and trade history. And as far as I'm aware, we're the only one that are providing this with such coverage and granularity, right now at least. And we're working on indices, new forms of aggregated data, and live streaming. So I kept this kind of brief, but thank you for listening. Questions?
You aggregate data from which market?
So right now we are monitoring around 35 exchanges. So we like the top by market cap, basically. And we are working on making that number bigger.
And what kind of data do you provide?
So the raw data that we're aggregating, that we're collecting, is order books and trades.
You said that only wallet data is private, right?
Mhm.
So which means that transaction data and order data is public. Everyone can access it.
Correct.
Okay. And I have another question that is maybe directed to Antoine. I think I got what's the added value of crypto-related data for us, for individuals. But now currently this data belongs to the exchanges, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
how do these exchanges monetize? How do they use it? If they do.
So they don't monetize it
They don't.
right now, as far as I know at least. What we are doing is also we're opening up conversations with exchanges and talking to them about how we could help them monetize their data.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would it be legal for the exchanges to monetize it without the customer permission?
So I don't know about the kind of data that crypto is working with, but I can answer for what we are doing. That data is all anonymized, so it cannot be tied to the traders as individuals.
For us also, it's like it's not that you think it's like it's encrypted, and it's the purpose of the company is not to sell the company, is not to sell the data. And we saw some problems, for instance, with an app tracker called Blockfolio, which is a very big app that appeared to sell the data of the consumers, and it has a huge impact on the number of downloads of the application, because it's like the user were not aware of this, and that's very bad for the company. So here, crypto, we won't sell data.
And just a question to Antoine for the crypto. Okay, so the data is encrypted, but do you, as crypto, your system administrator, do they have access to the data? Or is it encrypted in a way that only me that is using your product can actually read it, and it's encrypted in some way via my login password, or I don't know. Can you yourself read it?
No, we won't have access. Yeah, for now we can have access. It's not encrypted. Like we can have access to the data. Yeah, that's right.
All right.
Yeah. But if your question is related with the administration and the fact that they can have the data, is it like the idea you have?
I won't have any of my wallet data on the system where you can actually access it. That's what I.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. For the history, we have the history for the wallet data, which are the coins you have. Actually, we only do API calls with the exchanges, so it stays on the exchanges.
I'd like to narrow down a little bit more. Let's assume that all of us who are like complete novice, okay, complete beginners, and we don't have necessarily, compared to you guys as professionals, the level of capacity to understand what's going on. So if I understand clearly what's happening, we don't have to worry about the protection of the transaction data because it's all encrypted. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Now, what is going on as far as the subject of privacy is a hot topic these days. So what is going on as far as the regulation that all these exchange platforms are supposed to be following in regards to the privacy of our public data, such as name, address, and so forth, which are part of an invoice, for instance. And what secondary part of my question is, what is the extent of the governance entities being able to have access to that data? Let's say, let's assume we are in America, and one day the FBI, comes into a Kraken platform and say, hey, I want to have access to all your private data of your customer. What is your input in regard to that?
Yeah. So first off, I would say that I would argue against saying that you don't have to worry, because you still have to trust the exchange. These exchanges are centralized services, and when you're considering trading on an exchange, you have to consider do they seem legitimate, and which jurisdiction are they under, because the issues that you raise, it varies a lot by country to country, and most countries, this is unclear now, and different countries are taking different stances, and I think we will need to see how the regulatory landscape and the ecosystem evolves until you can be sure. So I think that the bottom line is do your research and do not do anything on an exchange that you would not like the FBI or any local law enforcement to know about, which I would say regardless. Yeah, but that's the gist of it. As long as you're trading on a centralized exchange, you have to trust the exchange, and there's really no way around that. There are these decentralized exchanges where you, to certain degrees, can remove this element of having to trust them, and that's going to be a very interesting development to see this year, I think.
You have this stuff like in France called droit de communication, and for instance, the tax administration can go to, it's easier for the European exchanges than for other exchanges, but the French tax administration can go to a European exchange, and particularly the French exchange, and has them for all the data on the French customer they have, and the exchange has to provide the data.
Okay, so in other terms, it would take place in France.
Yeah, but they can do it with also European exchanges, and I heard about some agreements that are on the table for between the Europe and US exchanges. For instance, in the US they're doing this. There is a huge story with Coinbase. The tax administration knocked at the door at Coinbase and has for all the data about the US taxpayers, and relation between Europe and the US are starting to be implemented.
Did you detect any fraud on Bitfinex the last 3 months?
Are you reading Bitfinex? I have not kept a close eye on that, so I cannot answer that.
About Kaiko, so you are connected to more than 30 exchanges, so you get data. This data is for, so actually, let's say I'm a client of Kaiko, and I want to use the data. What can I do with it? I mean, is it may I do some trading with that? Is it only for screens, for anything?
Yeah, so when I say data, I really mean just the data. We don't do any visualization or derive knowledge from the data. So usually our clients will already have internal systems in place where they use this. Let's say that you're a trader yourself. You're building an automated, like a trading bot, and you have a machine learning algorithm. You need to train it, so you need training data. And then also to backtest regardless of if you're doing machine learning or not, you can backtest your algorithm using data. Also, for people who are trying to understand the space as a whole, you can try to understand trends, etc.
And you talked about historical data, but can you get also the data in real time?
We're working on it.
Okay, and do you have any idea of the volume you will need to handle? In terms of, I don't know, messages per second, like that?
Yeah, we can have a discussion about that after if you want. I don't think we should take up too much time about that here.
Yeah. Could we expect some trading on the platform, on the PTO?
Yeah, it's on the roadmap, but we will work on it. But for now, the API keys we're asking are really only API keys. So there is no risk about hacking, about losing your coins on the exchanges. And in the past, with other solutions, they were hacking from solutions or for instance, a solution like Coinbase that provides trading from the platform. They were like sort of difficulties with the API key that enables to trade. So we will deeply work on it, and we will release it if we're sure that that's good. But this is on the roadmap.
Okay, and I have another question about the centralization of the whole platform, because we see more and more EX being created, and I wanted to know why are you more on the centralized side versus the centralized
it's more on the user part, meaning that if you are a user for investors and you have a lot of data on a lot of exchanges, some of them, not all of them, but some of them, that's my case, will want to have a centralized platform. So it's not an exchange. So the debate between centralization and decentralization is not fine. It's not very related to what we're doing. It's just about data centralization, not about centralization of data. So
all the fuss about blockchain is about having more decentralized system like this. But we see more and more systems being like Coinbase, like any other exchange that are doing centralized.
That's true.
Definitely something to.
Maybe later. That's nice.
Do you have example of valuable data insights you could provide to funds?
Do we, Eric? This is my colleague.
Yeah, sure. I mean, as Robert mentioned, doing backtesting is really interesting. But if you want to do things that are not available in the public data sets, such as do cross-exchange, tick-level introspection. So if you want to analyze a short time period and see what were people acting across exchanges and moving the market, that's something that's only possible if you have the tick-level data across the exchanges, and also order book manipulation or incentives being shown across exchanges, because we do the snapshots every minute across all the pairs and also across pairs. So you can load that into a data warehouse and do some interesting queries, I guess, as well.
And another thing that is kind of interesting. So I'm not going to name any names here, but we have seen a couple of exchanges where we're gathering data live, and some of these exchanges, they provide historical data of their trades, not of the order books. And we have seen discrepancies where the trades that we gather differ from what they present as the history themselves, which is kind of interesting.
There's a measured world and a shown world.
Yeah. All right, maybe that's for us. Yeah. Okay. By the way, we're hiring. If you're a nerd and you like this kind of things, come talk to us. Thank you.